All right, so you guys sent us a really interesting article this time um, about tennis and geopolitics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we're going to dive right into this.
Sounds good.
So this article, it's about the Australian tennis player, Thanasi Kokkinakis.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, so he played in this exhibition event in Russia, and this is interesting because it was like right in the middle of like all this advice from Tennis Australia saying,
Oh.
hey, you probably shouldn't be playing in Russia right now because of the whole war in Ukraine.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a pretty sensitive situation, right?
It is, and it seems so simple.
Right,
It's just a tennis match.
right.
But there's so many bigger issues.
Totally.
Like when you think about international relations and like the choices that these athletes are having to make.
It's a fascinating case study. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On the one hand, you have a tennis player who's just doing his thing, participating in an event.
Right.
But then you bring in like the whole global context, all the conflict that's happening and the sanctions and Australia's position, like where they stand on everything.
Yeah.
It gets complicated.
Really fast.
Yeah.
So it even says in the article that Tennis Australia specifically advised players not to go to Russia.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like Kokkinakis didn't know
Oh, definitely not.
that this was kind of a no-no.
Yeah, and Tennis Australia, they're right in line with the government there. I know the Australian government's policy, like they imposed all these sanctions on Russia.
Right, right.
And even specifically on Gazprom, which is this like massive,
Huge.
yeah, state-owned energy company in Russia back in April of 22.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets even more like, I don't even know the word.
I know, right.
Because this exhibition event that he played in,
We're sponsored by
you guessed it,
Gazprom.
Gazprom.
I know.
Wow.
It's like a whole other layer to all of this. It's
Yeah.
not just that he's playing in Russia.
Right.
He's directly benefiting a company that is under these sanctions.
Right.
It's tough.
You can really see how this would put an athlete in a difficult position.
Definitely.
So how does this compare to what happened with Wimbledon
Wimbledon.
back in 2022
Yeah.
when they banned Russian and Belarusian players?
That was huge.
It was a big story.
And it really sparked this huge debate
Oh, yeah.
about the role of sports, when there's like a war happening.
Mm-hmm.
And Wimbledon, I mean, they eventually reversed the ban for the 2023 tournament.
Okay.
But they had this one condition.
What's that?
Russian and Belarusian players could only play as neutral athletes.
Okay, so what does that mean?
So basically, they can compete,
Uh-huh.
but they can't represent their country.
Oh, okay.
They don't have the flag.
Got it.
They don't have the anthem.
So bring it back to Kokkinakis.
Yeah.
Is playing in this Gazprom-sponsored event
Right.
in Russia.
Yeah.
Really neutral.
I mean, especially considering Australia's stance on all this.
Right.
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really kind of raises the bigger issue. Sure.
Is it even possible
Right.
to be truly neutral?
When you're taking money.
Yeah. When you're accepting sponsorship
Right.
from a company that's so closely tied to a government that's, engaged in this conflict.
Yeah, what about Kokkinakis' motivations?
Right.
I mean, we don't know for sure why he played.
We don't?
Do you think there could be any consequences for him?
I mean, it's hard to say without knowing, like, his actual reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, there could be repercussions.
Like what?
Public criticism, for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe even sanctions from Tennis Australia itself.
Oh, wow.
It's a tricky situation.
Definitely.
And I think this whole thing really highlights how difficult it is for athletes
Yeah.
to navigate this world where politics and sports are so intertwined.
So basically, we have an Australian tennis player
Right.
who went to Russia and played in this event, even though Tennis Australia told him not to.
Yep.
And they were following the government sanctions.
Exactly.
And it just seems like a simple tennis match.
But now we're talking about like international politics.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it mean to be a neutral athlete?
Totally.
And it's all about these choices that people have to make when these worlds collide.
Absolutely. And it really leaves us with a lot to think about. Like,
Yeah.
should athletes be held accountable for what their sponsors do?
Right.
Even if their sport is trying to stay neutral?
Right.
I mean, there's no easy answer.
Yeah.
And it's something we're going to keep talking about as the world gets more and more interconnected.
Yeah, this has definitely given us a lot to consider.
For sure.
So if you're interested, I encourage you to go out there and learn some more.
Yes,
Do some research
definitely.
and form your own conclusions.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sending us on this fascinating journey.
It was a good one.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah.